Recording in progress.
Good morning, dear Dharma friends. December the 29th, 2021. A pleasure to meet you here in our Dharma hall this morning. I have a sweet reading today. I don't know the author. I think I don't need these right now. I'm just going to read it once. It's called I Wish You Enough. At an airport, I overheard a father and daughter in their last moments together. They had announced her plane's departure, and standing near the door, she said, "Daddy, our life together has been more than enough. Your love is all I ever needed. I wish you enough too, Daddy." They kissed goodbye and she left. He walked over to the window where I was seated. Standing there, I could see he wanted and needed to cry. I tried not to intrude on his privacy, but he welcomed me in by asking, "Did you ever say goodbye to someone, knowing it would be forever?" "Yes, I have," I replied. Saying that brought back memories I had of expressing my love and appreciation for all my dad had done for me. Recognizing that his days were limited, I took the time to tell him face to face how much he meant to me, so I knew what this man was experiencing. "Forgive me for asking, but why is this a forever goodbye?" I asked. "I am old and she lives much too far away. I have challenges ahead, and the reality is her next trip back will be for my funeral." "When you were saying goodbye, I heard you say, 'I wish you enough.' May I ask what that means?" He began to smile. "That's a wish that's been handed down from other generations. My parents used to say it to everyone." He paused a moment, and looking up as if trying to remember it in detail, he smiled even more. "When we said, 'I wish you enough,' we were wanting the other person to have a life filled with enough good things to sustain them." He continued, and then, turning to me, he shared the following as if he were reciting it from memory. "I wish you enough sun to keep your attitude bright. I wish you enough rain to appreciate the sun more. I wish you enough happiness to keep your spirit alive. I wish you enough pain so the smallest joys in life appear much bigger. I wish you enough pain to satisfy your wanting. I wish you enough loss to appreciate all that you possess. I wish you enough hellos to get you through the final goodbye." He then began to sob and walked away. They say, quote, "It takes a minute to find a special person, an hour to appreciate them, a day to love them, but then an entire lifetime to forget them." Send this phrase to the people you'll never forget. It's a short message to let them know you'll never forget them. If you don't send it to someone, it means you're in a hurry and need to slow down enough to enjoy what's around you, the people around you. And so, I wish you enough. Sounds come out of nothingness. This is a mysterious thing, this living. I tend to take it for granted, but it's really it's really an utterly mysterious thing to be alive. Every note begins. Sometimes they harmonize. Sometimes they rattle a bit when the fingers are not pressed down just quite right. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya. Buddha. We're taught to take refuge in success, money, power, children, relationships, movies, various substances, electronic devices, nation states, power, gated communities. The Buddha taught that in a way, the only sensible place to take refuge is in being awake. Being awake and acknowledging the realities of the world. Of course, we have to notice them first. And then the community of practice down through the ages. This is not a modern teaching. This is the perennial teaching. I like to think about the 150 or 40 or so generations since the time of the Buddha, saying hello to one another at the door of the Dharma hall, and saying goodbye at the end of their lives. It's been a fine trip together. And so every moment, every time of gathering is of great preciousness. And so what is it that sits here? We, of course, tend to say, well, this is my body. I'm sitting in my living room or my pajamas or my... I, me, and mine come very easily. We're trained for them to come easily. And so, like great explorers, Captains Cook in Vancouver and trouble remembering his name. Christopher Columbus, the murderous psychopath. They all thought they were headed off onto the great journey. This is the great journey. You, we, I, we're all on the great journey. This is the journey of awakening. It's not just stress management. It's not just becoming more psychologically fit. It's not just about improving our efficiency at work. It's really about the question, who am I? Who am I? And so let's carry out the exploration. Can I find myself? And let me look first at the body. What do I find here? There's contact, there's pressure, there's temperature. There's life in what I call the hands. There's breathing in and breathing out. And it's useful for the exploration to have a stable observation capacity. So we use in-breathing and out-breathing as a strategy. I will experience some focus, some concentration on this in-breathing and out-breathing as part of the slowest moving aspect of being a human being. Matter, the body. Each breath has a beginning. And we can notice that it doesn't exist. And then it does. In our exploration, we can also widen the field of awareness in the body and notice there are sensations in what we think of as the feet, in the legs, in the pelvis, in the hands. And if we take the hands and the life there as our object of observation, do you find hands or do you find life? To look beyond the concept and idea hands, or to feel or to know is more accurate. There's nothing but life, is there? It tingles and vibrates and changes. It is change. And so we can inhabit the in-breathing and out-breathing and the field of life, which is the hand. There's also the sense door of the mind. This is the realm where thoughts exist, memories, past and future. And so one can, it can be aware of the rising and passing of thoughts. And so we have our basic practice, which can serve us for a lifetime. Rooted in curiosity. Rooted in mindfulness. Abiding gently, non-violently, non-coercively, in this breath right now. Letting it be as real as something in constant change can be. And then the mind wanders. And then we become entranced. Some story, some memory, some responsibility. I must do this later today, or and for a little while or a long while, that someone, sort of, which is present with the breath, is gone. The illusions, the fantasies become paramount. And then the great mystery happens. Mindfulness springs into being, and one awakens. So there is this oscillation in a way, lost in the dream, awake, present to the truths of anicca, dukkha, and anatta. Breathing in and breathing out. There is a fundamental illusion known in Buddhism as Sakyaditi, wrong view. It appears as a sense of I that's at the center of everything, observing, almost like it's a little something sitting behind the pituitary gland that looks down on the fingers and out into the thoughts and so on. The deeper we go in practice, the clearer it becomes that such an imagination is not needed. It's added. And in awareness of in-breathing and out-breathing, does breathing happen down there? Or does it happen here, now? And its location is consciousness. It's just known. And when the wandering mind happens, does it happen somewhere? Where? We say things like, it happens in my brain. It's an interesting idea. What's the experience? It happens here, now. So we are called to our true direct experience outside of the illusions. When hearing occurs, Sakyaditi says that's an airplane out there. Oh, that's the neighbor rolling their garbage cans out to the street. What's the true experience? It happens in consciousness. It is known in consciousness. And so we have our powerful ritual of sitting still, sitting still. Present in breathing and out breathing. Given the way we flash into and then out of each other's lives, the only reasonable attitude is love. It's as if we meet someone on the dance floor of life and the music is fine and the moment is beautiful. And we have our dance, maybe two. Maybe we connect for 50 years. And then we vanish. As Rena Sirkar, teacher in San Francisco, used to say, remembering this, how can we be anything but loving? And all of this arising out of mindfulness of breathing. This breath right now. Is the gong out there somewhere, or is it inside? May all beings who take birth live a lifetime and then vanish, share in the merits of our practice. May our loved ones and friends, those we think of as our enemies or competitors or them, may we remember the preciousness of this moment. And as we form the intention to allow the eyes to open, to will the eyes open, actually, let's notice how it is as the effort is made to raise the eyelids, and then seeing happens. Seeing. Seeing. As happens in all things, I heard, it's funny, I got some sad news yesterday. Predictable. My friend Pete Castleberry, who's been the superintendent of our project, I happened to call him yesterday and he said, "Oh, I'm on the way to the center to pick up my tools." It wasn't a complex friendship, but we had a good time. Project's ending. His company tells him move on to the next project. There'll still be someone there from PNC Construction. Derek, a nice fellow. But poof. I will see Pete again. I'm going to take about 5 or 6 people from the project out to dinner when it's really done. So, I have, hang on, I want to make this bigger, can I? Yeah, here we go. Oh, I can make it fill the whole screen. That's impressive. Now, here we go. To simplify the announcements, there's this. Yay to Molly. Molly's quite an artist, isn't she? Molly and Gregory for putting this together. Support your center, year-end giving at PIMC. Oh my goodness, I just looked at these trees. They are so full now. You can't see the building. How interesting. I hadn't seen this in a long time. Ha! Wow. That's when the plantings were new several years ago. There's a New Year's Eve event via Zoom with Gary Sanders and myself. These are all on the website now. And there's the February 4th evening, the Year of Magical Thinking, with Vanessa Redgrave. the book by Joan Didion, who passed away recently. And Candle's wonderful teaching. She has this group for women. She also is teaching this Sunday night and has other groups that she teaches as well. And the DEI committee, we're going to be holding a community-wide meeting in, I think, late January to talk about our DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion or belonging. And Karma Yoga, it's possible to go to the website and put your name there if you want to help with bringing our building and our community back to life. And The Heart of Freedom with Doug Pullen and Jim Dalton subbing Thursday, 12:30. And Doug Pullen is teaching classes in 22. And that's all for right now. In gratitude to Sangha, be well and see you online. So there, that was moderately painless. So I think that's what I want to say. Is there sharing you'd like to do? I know one of the things I've learned in the bit of the diversity, equity, and inclusion work that I've done is to encourage those who are quiet. If you have something you'd like to say, and something I say on retreats when we're passing the talking stick is if you're moved to share something, and some part of you says, well, that's stupid, everybody knows that, that's probably something important to share, because probably 6 or 10 other people will say, oh, that's wonderful, thank you very much. And if you're someone for whom it's really easy to share, hold back sometimes and make room for a quiet person. I need these on. Jim, would you give me a sound check so I can tell if I have ears?
I have ears too.
Good. Thank you. I see it.
Robert,
Yes.
it's Kat. You have a question from Leanne about New Year's Eve. Is dropping in okay, or do you prefer people to commit to the entire evening?
You can come whenever you want. I mean, why not come for the whole evening if you can? But if you can't, then drop in. If it were in person, I think I would say the opposite. Please come for the whole. But it isn't that. A person who comes aboard in Zoom just kind of pops in down in the corner, and so it's not an intrusion.
It's Kat again. I'll speak for myself this time. Can you just, I don't have a question. Can you just talk a little bit about loneliness at the end of the year? Like loneliness in times of societal transition, even though it's just one more day.
You catch me at an interesting moment with that question. It's a pretty alone place, a human life, isn't it? So the world makes the world, some part of the world, this particular calendar that we are subject, the Chinese use, they must be wrong. They have a completely different day for New Year's. And the Buddhists have a different day too, for that matter. There's the Buddhist calendar, and there's a Jewish calendar, and there's a Mesopotamian calendar, and the Aztec calendar. I think it ended, the Aztec calendar, but we're still here. So I guess I would say this, that if one experiences loneliness, then examining what that is seems really to make a lot of sense. Does it arise from thoughts? Does it arise from fantasies of how things should be? Does it arise from our attachment to people and places and things that are gone? And where do they exist? Where do those people who are gone exist in us? It's always in mind. And so there's nothing wrong, of course, with loneliness, because it can be there. But what to do with it? Do we make it something real and then have a story about loneliness, and then we become really a lonely person because we've jumped back into that again and again? Or is it a passing phenomenon? It's like, oh, look at this, I'm missing so and so, or the story of loneliness in my mind, in my life, has come to the fore, and now I'm lonely. And then what happens if I come back to the breath? I see that you're sad, Kat. I had a habit. It's really not here very much anymore. I think the word is maudlin. I had a maudlin habit and I remember very distinctly, it was some years ago. It was maybe quite a while ago, because I had small children. And I feel sad as I talk about it. It was Christmas Eve, and we got the kids to bed, and I was alone in the living room with the Christmas tree. And I started remembering Christmases past and started feeling sad that, oh, that person's not here. And then there was enough mindfulness that in the middle of it, there was awareness of how that state was generating itself. I mean, in fact, there was nothing wrong with the present moment at all. You know, there were presents under the tree, and I was living with my mother-in-law, whom I loved, and my wife, whom I loved, and it was one of those good years, you know, and it became obvious to me that the sad feeling, the nostalgic feeling, was a habit that I had. I did it a lot. And once, of course, a pattern like that becomes known as thinking, then, as Ruth put it so beautifully, Dalink, you can no longer get away with yourself. And so that started fading out. And of course, I still sometimes, the mind does that, but I don't hang out there much. The good old...
Okay, so that's actually my question.
Okay, good.
Sorry to interrupt you because you're doing great. But how do you stop hanging out there? Like, I feel like I'm in this in-between space where I see so much that it is thinking, and I see so much that it's habit and just brain stuff, and yet actually moving away from that feels distant. Like, I don't know how to do that.
Uh-huh. I have an idea. We could all do this. Take your hands, and this is a COVID practice. Let them rub each other as though you were washing your hands, and really come into contact with the sensations. And then maybe take them and tap the fingertips together. Maybe the baby finger first, and then the ring fingers, and then so it's tap, 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 and then the other way, tap, 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 tap. Tap, 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 and then extravagant tapping, tap, 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 and be in the sensations. They come and they go with amazing rapidity, and then feel the sensations in the right fingers, and then in the left fingers, and then in the right thumb and the left thumb. So, while doing that, was the maudlin that it ceases to exist because it exists only in mind. And when attention is focused somewhere else, it's here. And so that's one of the, I think, one of the real beautiful strengths of the Theravadan path, that there really is something we can do. At least it appears as that's the case. So when we're caught up in a state like that, work out. Distract. And it's not distracting. Choose another object. And starting with the body is really useful. Or do loving kindness meditation, or now here's the other piece of it, the other side of it, which is, or go to your meditation spot, light your incense and candle, prepare for battle, and go in and feel that sadness and feel that loneliness and watch how it does itself. And open the floodgates. Let the some and both of these are both very legitimate strategies to let it happen. And to not halfway, not a half measure, but really fully let it happen. But yeah. I guess there's one other piece, full disclosure. I'll bet that night that I was once again having my maudlin memories, I'll bet there was alcohol involved. And there's no way to do, well, shouldn't say there's no way, but it's more difficult to go tap, 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 tap when one is significantly out of it. So the present moment is always here. That's all there is, actually. Even the maudlin memories are all happening now. Thanks, Kat. I guess I want to say one more thing. There's a lot of social support for feeling bad. You know, something bad happens to us. I mean, it happens all the time, but something, really bad, like a death, happens. And there's a fair amount of social support that I will always feel bad about this. Always, particularly on special days, I will always feel bad. As opposed to, well, I will always remember, I will honor, but I will allow my life to become full of love and alive and full of generosity. I will recognize that everything is a passing phase. Passing phase, that was the term Anagarika Munindra used. It is all passing phase. Passing phase. What I offer here is what comes to mind. There's other things one could do with loneliness, of course, which is to be in the community of other beloveds. To be generous. To do something kind for other people or person. So much we can do.
Hi, Robert. It's Dave Mayer.
Hello, Mr. Dave.
I I wanted Kat's question sparked me. I just wanted to comment on a let's say direction, suggestion you gave me a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about an mind energy that was going on, and I gave it a name, and you suggested I look at the story. And when you've talked about story in the past, I think about what I tell myself or, my history. But I got, with your direction, I started looking at, when I would be sitting with a sensation, and I'd say, oh, that's my anxiety.
Right.
Or depression, oh, that's my depression. Or in Kat's case, I don't know, loneliness or whatever. The energy had a name. And I started thinking, wait, I wonder if there's a story in the name. And so as I was sitting with what I understood as a sensation and came with that, I don't know, word that would be given to it, I started just attending to the word, or is there a history going on there? And that's been really fruitful for me.
Mm-hmm.
Especially as abandonment. I had a big opening yesterday on an abandonment thing that was going on. And by saying, saying I'm feeling that as abandonment, looking at abandonment as the story,
Mm-hmm.
it changed the whole nature of my relationship to the sensation. That's been really fruitful for me, and wanted to thank you for that.
And I'm guessing you could drop into the sensation without the words and have a different
what's interesting
experience.
is I could go back and forth and say, oh, isn't that interesting? It hits me this way. Oh, well, this way. Oh, and so, the last 2 weeks haven't been particularly good for me mental health wise, but I've been able to be with it.
Great.
And just say, oh, this is going on, without giving it a name. So that I just hadn't appreciated how just having a name for something that seemed clinical had a story attached to it. And
wonderful.
It can be everything from sadness to whatever. Well, sadness, it's a sensation, and there's a story behind sadness.
Great. I just remembered somewhere in my pictures, I visited Bhante Gunaratana with Matt Flickstein and a group some years ago now. And he's such a lovely man. I think he's still alive. And I forget the name of the place that Matt Flickstein and he created together in the East. Anyway, when he does his teaching, when he meets with a group of people, he has the Dharma Hall teaching, but he meets with a group of people, and he met with us and asked, and we could ask questions and so on. It's a little room, not particularly nice, just a plain room, and there's a folding screen behind him, and on the side of the folding screen, the only decoration in the entire room was a little cheap sign printed and a cheap frame that said, "Less drama, more dharma." and I thought of that when you were talking, David, because there's all the complexity of the drama and the stories, and the dharma is, there's sensation and there's thinking. There's just this, and what if I attend more fully to the sensations as sensations? I've always thought of that sign as something about interpersonal issues, but it's the same inside. We can make lots of drama and we can make dharma, and they're profoundly intertwined.
One thing that's really interesting for me is watching as I go off into wandering mind, and how did I get here? Because I thought I was attending sensation. And when did I start thinking?
Yeah. Which is, of course, more thinking.
Well, I could talk more. Never mind.
All right. Thanks, David. Very nice sharing. Important.
Hi. Um,
It's Joy.
it is still. I just wanted to mention I've been noticing um, loneliness around me in especially people who are older or disabled and widowed and so on. And for me, I think there is a call right now for me to keep those people company, even though they can be difficult because they can't go out and walk and have fun and hike, and so it takes a bit of. I've been developing my patience practice because it takes a lot of patience to be with somebody very old or disabled.
Wow.
But, yeah, and someday I might be lonely again, although I haven't been for a while. But I do see around me all these people who really struggle with it, who might not have the resources to participate in the community or do much for themselves. So that was just a thought I had. I was quite envious of my brother who went to the trouble of making 3 children, and now he has these fun family gatherings in Winnipeg with his grandchild. But I just feel like I had that, and now I have something else. But anyway, those are just some rambling thoughts, because I think loneliness is a huge issue for certain people that we can help now in our state of life.
Yeah. It was nice when I forget when the moment was when you made a gesture toward your heart. Yeah. You reminded me of my teacher Krishna from Kolkata, came to visit Canada once. I helped Munindraji and I just said her name, Krishna, with a retreat at Cultus Lake in Canada. And she didn't talk much. She was a very quiet person. But she gave one talk to the whole group. And she'd been in North America for about 4 months at that point, traveling around with Munindra. And she got up there in front of all of us, and she started to just weep. Just quietly, she had tears coming down her face, and she said, there's one predominant observation that I have, is that people in America, North America, are all so lonely. I hear in your sharing how lonely everyone is. Not everyone, but many. And
yes, and if I just go to the trouble of going out and having coffee with someone, they're so grateful, so incredibly grateful for such a small thing. Anyway.
And it is epidemic in our culture because we don't do community very well. And we have this strange phenomenon called the nuclear family.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre.
Yeah.
I mean, we think of it as a normal phenomenon, but it's new on the planet with industrialization. And the term IBM, people at IBM said it stands for I've been moved. And we actually think it's normal to be somewhere working with some company in Vancouver, and then to get transported to Halifax or to Michigan somewhere or for 2 years. It's part of the career path. And what it does is it severs the ties. And so we have a challenge with that in our culture. And it's part of we have a challenge at PIMC. We are slowly creating community. And what that means is we're developing lives that are intertwined and interdependent and responsible to and for each other. And I talk to lots of people about their reticence to do so. If I let the community help me, then I'll owe something.
Oh,
Yeah. So we have a lot to learn about being in relationship. And thank you, my dear.
thank you.
Your
good,
colors are gorgeous today, by the way. Yeah, the couch, even the
Couch painting.
the
Yeah, I
paint. Well,
know.
no, but also your face has a reddish. It's perfect. You're perfectly set up there.
Well, we're in a monochromatic landscape right now because of the white ground
Oh,
and
yeah.
gray trees. So color really helps too.
Well,
Engage with
you're doing
color.
your part really well.
Thank you.
Well, I need to go soon. 8:20. Anything else anyone is bursting to say?
This is Steffi. Thank
Hi.
you so much. I got so much out of today's share. Thank you.
Hello, Steffi. Thank you. Well, let us, Laurie says, disability and aging are very isolating. Boy, I believe that to be true. Jennifer went yesterday and had tea with her mom in the memory care. And this time she went and she found her mom in the main living area rather than in her bed. So that's a good thing. And we're going to try to go. I'm going to try to go at least once a week just to check in with her.
Hey, Robert. Yesterday you started to tell a story about her, and that's when the sound things went away, and a lot of people were interested in hearing what you were going to say.
I have no idea.
Darn.
I have no idea. I mean, she was there at Christmas dinner, and she was sort of there. It was interesting. I took maybe this was it. I took a picture of her that captured the vacantness in a shocking sort of way. I didn't see it when I took it, but then when I went back and looked at it, it's like she wasn't home, because of course she isn't home in the way that we usually are. So I mean, it's very weird. It is beyond weird. We go through all this effort to build a self, a functional self that can, Freud's terms, love, work, and play. We become functional as a self. And then if the biology is such, or the stroke or whatever, and then that self just disappears. How strange. I mean, that's part of the selfishness. Not the selfishness is not the right word, but to go see Rita is good for me. To encounter the truth of that. Very, very helpful. So let us share. May all beings share the greatest of all blessings. Bhavatu sabe mangalam. Bhavatu sabe mangalam. Bhavatu sabe mangalam. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And then, of course, another answer to loneliness is a dog.
Or cat, Dave.
Or cat, yeah.
cat.
I just
Or
saw that.
cat.
I just
That's
saw
right.
that lovely floppy dog with Victoria.
My kids are asleep and she was barking, and
Ah.
I really want them to sleep. So I'm going to take her for a walk after this.
All right. Bye-bye. Have a lovely day, everybody.
Shalom, y'all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye, friends on Zoom.